Week 10 of pregnancy, the miracle of fertilization. Hello, and welcome back to Pregnancy Week by Week, your baby's amazing journey. Imagine a moment so small that no one can see it with the naked eye. Yet that single moment has the power to create an entirely new human life. A life that has never existed before. A life with its own heartbeat, its own fingerprints, its own smile, and its own future. This is the incredible story of week 10 of pregnancy. During this week, one of the greatest miracles in human biology may take place: fertilization. Out of millions of sperm, only one usually succeeds in joining with the egg. In that instant, a completely unique genetic blueprint is created. Today, we'll explore how fertilization happens, how your baby's first cell is formed, and why this tiny microscopic event is one of the most extraordinary processes in nature. Let's begin. Chapter Act: the moment everything changes. At the end of week 2, the mature egg was released from the ovary during ovulation and entered the fallopian tube. Now the egg is waiting. Its lifespan is short, usually about 12 to 24 hours. If healthy sperm are already present in the fallopian tube, one of them may reach the egg during this brief window. Millions of sperm begin the journey, but only a tiny fraction make it close to the egg. The female reproductive system naturally creates challenges that help only the strongest, healthiest sperm continue forward. This remarkable process is part of nature's way of supporting healthy reproduction. Finally, after an incredible journey, one sperm reaches the egg. It attaches to the egg's outer layer. Special enzymes released by the sperm help it gently pass through the protective covering surrounding the egg. When the sperm successfully enters the egg, something extraordinary happens. The egg immediately changes its outer surface to help prevent other sperm from entering. This natural process helps ensure normal fertilization. At this exact moment, the journey of a brand new human life begins. Chapter 2: the first cell of life. Once the sperm enters the egg, their genetic material combines. The egg contributes 30 chromosomes. The sperm contributes 30 chromosomes. Together, they create 46 chromosomes, forming the complete genetic blueprint for a new individual. This first single cell is called the zygote. Although the zygote is microscopic, it already contains an astonishing amount of information. Your baby's biological sex is genetically determined at fertilization. Many inherited characteristics, such as blood type and countless genetic traits, are also established at this stage. No one else has exactly the same genetic combination. Every baby is wonderfully unique. Amazing fact: did you know that the DNA inside one tiny fertilized egg contains enough biological information to guide the development of trillions of cells over the coming months and years? From a single microscopic cell, the human body eventually develops into a complex system of organs, muscles, bones, nerves, blood vessels, and billions of brain cells. It is one of the greatest wonders of biology. Chapter 10: Cell Division begins. The zygote doesn't remain a single cell for very long. About a day after fertilization, it begins dividing. One cell becomes 2, 2 become 4, 4 become 8. The process continues rapidly. What's truly amazing is that the embryo doesn't become larger during these early divisions. Instead, the original cell divides into smaller and smaller cells while remaining about the same overall size. Each new cell is called a blastomere. These cells communicate with one another continuously, following genetic instructions with incredible precision. No one tells them what to do. The information is already written within the DNA. Scientists still study how these remarkable cellular processes occur with such accuracy. Chapter 4. The journey continues while these early cell divisions are taking place. The developing embryo slowly travels through the fallopian tube toward the uterus. Tiny hair-like structures called cilia gently move the embryo along. The journey takes several days. Although the distance is only a few inches, it is one of the most important journeys in human development. During this time, the embryo depends entirely on nutrients already stored inside the egg. It does not yet receive nutrients directly from the mother's bloodstream. Nature has carefully prepared everything needed for these first precious days. Myth versus fact. Myth. Twins always happen because two sperm fertilize one egg. Fact. Most identical twins occur when one fertilized egg later divides into two embryos. Fraternal twins usually happen when two separate eggs are fertilized by two different sperm during the same cycle. Closing transition in just a few days. An extraordinary transformation has already begun. A single fertilized cell is dividing again and again. A unique genetic blueprint has been established. The tiny embryo is traveling toward the uterus, preparing for the next critical stage of development. But the journey is far from over. Week 10 of pregnancy, from a tiny cluster of cells to the blastocyst, a single sperm successfully reach the egg. And together they form the very first cell of a brand new human life, the zygote. But that was only the beginning. Although the embryo is still far too small to be seen without a microscope, incredible changes are happening every single hour. Every cell is dividing with remarkable precision. Every moment brings your future baby one step closer to becoming a fully developed human being. Let's continue this amazing journey. Chapter 5. The first days of life. During the first few days after fertilization, the zygote continues dividing over and over again. One cell becomes two, two become four, four become 8. Soon there are 16 cells. Then even more. What makes this process so fascinating is that the embryo is not growing larger yet. Instead, each new cell becomes smaller while the overall size remains almost the same. Scientists call this process cleavage. Every division happens according to the instructions stored inside the embryo's DNA. No outside guidance is needed. Nature already has a carefully designed plan. Chapter 6. The moraler. Around 3 to 4 days after fertilization, the embryo reaches another important stage. It now looks like a tiny ball made up of many tightly packed cells. This stage is called the moraler. The word moraler comes from the Latin word for mulberry, because under a microscope it resembles the shape of a small berry. Although it contains only a few dozen cells, something extraordinary is happening. The cells are beginning to communicate with one another. Some cells will eventually help form the baby. Others will later become structures that support the pregnancy. This is the earliest example of specialized development. Even at this tiny stage, every cell has an important job. Amazing fact: did you know that every cell inside the moraler contains nearly the same DNA? Yet in the coming weeks, some of these cells will become brain tissue, others will become heart muscle, skin, liver, kidneys, lungs, and many other organs. Scientists continue to study how cells know which role to take. It remains one of the most fascinating mysteries in developmental biology. Chapter 7. A journey through the fallopian tube. While all of this is happening, the embryo is still traveling through the fallopian tube. Tiny hair-like structures called cilia gently move it toward the uterus. Small muscular contractions of the fallopian tube also help guide the embryo. This journey usually takes about 5 to 6 days. Everything must happen at exactly the right pace. If the embryo arrives too early, the uterus may not yet be ready. If it arrives too late, successful implantation may become more difficult. The week 10 of pregnancy, implantation begins and a new life takes hold now. We arrive at one of the most important milestones of early pregnancy. The tiny blastocyst is finally approaching the uterus. Its next step will determine whether pregnancy continues successfully. Let's continue this amazing journey. Chapter 11. Arriving at the uterus after several days of traveling through the fallopian tube, the blastocyst finally reaches the uterus. Although it is still incredibly small, about the size of the tip of a pencil, it has already completed an extraordinary journey. The uterus has been preparing for this moment all along. Its inner lining, called the endometrium, has become thicker, softer, and filled with tiny blood vessels. This lining will provide the support the developing embryo needs during the coming months. The blastocyst now gently floats inside the uterus for a short time before finding the perfect place to attach. This process requires remarkable biological precision. Chapter 12. The beginning of implantation. Soon, the outer layer of the blastocyst begins making contact with the uterine lining. This process is called implantation. Special cells on the outside of the blastocyst slowly attach to the endometrium. Over the next few days, these cells begin growing deeper into the uterine lining. This connection is essential. Without successful implantation, the pregnancy cannot continue. Once implantation begins, the mother's body and the developing embryo start working together in an extraordinary partnership. Tiny blood vessels begin forming around the implantation site. These blood vessels will eventually help deliver oxygen and nutrients to the growing baby. Chapter 13. Pregnancy hormones begin their work as implantation continues. Special cells begin producing a hormone called human chorionic gonadotropin, commonly known as HCG. This hormone sends an important message throughout the mother's body. It tells the ovaries that pregnancy has begun. It also helps maintain the hormones needed to support the uterine lining. Without HCG, the lining would begin to break down, and pregnancy could not continue. As HCG levels rise, they will eventually become high enough to be detected by a home pregnancy test. This is why most pregnancy tests work only after implantation has begun. Amazing fact: did you know that your baby's cells are already communicating with your body before most women even realize they're pregnant? Through hormones and tiny biological signals. The embryo and the mother's body begin working together almost immediately after implantation starts. Scientists continue to study this fascinating communication because it is one of the earliest examples of cooperation between mother and baby. Chapter 14. What the mother may notice at this stage. Many women still have no obvious symptoms. Others may begin noticing subtle changes. Some experience light spotting known as implantation bleeding. Others may feel mild cramping. Some notice increased tiredness, breast tenderness, or a heightened sense of smell. These symptoms vary from person to person. Some women experience several early signs of pregnancy. Others notice almost nothing at all. Both experiences can be completely normal. Healthy tips for early pregnancy. Although the embryo is still microscopic, healthy habits are already important. Healthcare providers generally recommend eating a balanced diet rich in fruits, vegetables, whole grains, lean proteins, and healthy fats. Drinking enough water each day, getting adequate sleep, taking prenatal vitamins if recommended, especially folic acid, avoiding smoking, alcohol, recreational drugs, and medications unless approved by a healthcare provider. Keeping regular medical appointments if pregnancy is confirmed. These simple habits support both the mother's health and the earliest stages of fetal development. Myth versus fact. Myth. If you don't feel pregnant immediately, something must be wrong. Fact. Many healthy pregnancies begin without noticeable symptoms. Every pregnancy is unique, and early symptoms can vary greatly from one person to another. Looking ahead, the tiny embryo has now found its first home inside the uterus. Implantation has begun. Pregnancy hormones are increasing. The connection between mother and baby is becoming stronger every day. In the coming week, incredible changes will happen. The embryo will continue developing rapidly. The earliest structures of the brain, spinal cord, and heart will begin forming. Although the embryo is still smaller than a grain of rice, amazing progress is just beginning. Final summary. This week has been one of the most extraordinary periods in human development. A single sperm and egg united to form a unique genetic blueprint. The zygote divided into many cells. The embryo traveled through the fallopian tube. It developed into a blastocyst. It reached the uterus, and implantation began, creating the first physical connection between mother and baby. These remarkable events all happened within just a few days. Even though they cannot be seen without powerful microscopes, they represent the amazing beginning of every human life.